Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
My name is Dan Haug, and I serve on your fellowship search committee. And we are at a pivotal moment in the search process where we just conferred and made some decisions about our preferences for the candidates, and the candidates will be doing likewise, and then our association will be helping to match us. And so very soon we should know who our candidate will be, and you will find out sometime in April. And then mark your calendars, because April 21st through 27th is candidating week, when you will get a chance to meet the candidate. They'll preach the first Sunday. There'll be several forums during the week about various topics, and you'll get some, be watching the weekly email for more information about the festivities during that week. And then especially you need to be here on April 27th, because that is when we will vote on whether to accept the candidate as our next minister. So it's an exciting time. I want to thank you all for being here today and extend a special welcome to any visitors. If you'd like more information about the fellowship, please visit the welcome table in the fireside room or sign our virtual guest book at uufames.org/guestbook. Whether joining us from home or here in Fellowship Hall, we invite you to stay after the service for coffee fellowship, where we can introduce yourself and join in conversation with kindred spirits. Announcements. It's hard to believe, but Reverend AJ's time with us is already in its final months, so that means it's time to plan his farewell celebration. We'll be having a fellowship art show and potluck in mid-June, and we need your help. See your latest weekly email for more information about how you can get involved and then sign up. Something more in the immediate future: on Saturday, April 13th, from 9:30 to 2:30, Lauren Wyeth, the Faith Development Specialist from the Mid-American region of our association, will lead a workshop at the fellowship for all stakeholders about religious education for children and youth. We'll gain an appreciation for our unique religious education history here at the fellowship, dream big for our future, and articulate a vision and goals for the faith development of our children and youth. We'll learn how the entire fellowship plays an integral role in realizing these aspirations. Light refreshments and lunch will be provided, as well as childcare. The link to the register for this event can be found in the latest weekly email, the family email, or scan the QR code on the posters around the building. So, on behalf of this caring, nurturing congregation, I welcome each and every one of you to this sacred space. Here, we invite you into an experience of transformation, hope, renewal, and connections, which may inspire you to understand life in new ways. Thank you for joining us today.
Our opening words are from Reverend Mark Bellatini. Dying stars condensed themselves into stardust once, and stardust condensed itself into the elements of earth. The elements of earth condensed themselves into living cells. Living cells condensed themselves into organisms that swam and crawled on land, thundered through the trees. Organisms that were great in size condensed themselves into creatures fleet of foot and deft of mind, who could gaze at the faint stars and wonder if the light was their father, if the nourishing earth embracing them was their mother. These quick creatures, small and uncertain, then condensed their human lives of honest struggle into lives of conquest and violence. Little by little, a few human hearts condensed themselves smaller than those vast crowd among them who clamored for power and gave power up for the burden of love given freely to all their brothers and sisters, even the hurt and the loud and the sad. Then these few amazing hearts condensed their saving insight into the word. Love one another. Love your neighbor as yourself. Know yourself and love yourself. Receive the love that embraces us all. And those words then condensed even further into this small jewel of silence that sums the whole evolution of creation with the elegance and honesty of wordlessness. Our chalice lighting this morning is from Rumi. So just be quiet and sit down. The reason is you are drunk, and this is the edge of the world. Please rise now in body or spirit and join in our opening song, 263, When Jesus Looked from Olivet. Our story this morning is Wabi Sabi by Mark Riebstein, art by Ed Young, and the haikus are translations from Basho. Wabi Sabi was a cat who lived in Kyoto, Japan. One day, visitors from another country asked Wabi Sabi's master what her name meant. It had never occurred to her before that Wabi Sabi was anything more than her name. Wabi Sabi watched as her master drew breath through her teeth, shook her head, and said, "That's hard to explain."
The cat's tail twitching, she watches her master, still, waiting in silence.
Curious now, Wabi Sabi wondered if her friend Snowball could explain the meaning of her name. Snowball, who had been napping, stretched, yawned, and sighed. "That's hard to explain," she blinked. "It's kind of beauty," she added after a minute, her eyes closing again. As though dreaming, she went on.
An old straw mat, rough on cat's paws, pricks and tickles, hurts and feels good too.
Then Snowball went back to sleep. Wabi Sabi wasn't sure she understood, but she didn't want to bother Snowball anymore, so she asked Rascal, the dog, if he knew about Wabi Sabi. Rascal was smart, but kind of mean. "That's too hard to explain to someone like you," he snapped. Then almost to himself, he said,
Poor Wabi Sabi, as simple as a brown leaf, so ordinary.
"Now I'm even more confused," sighed Wabi Sabi. "Am I beautiful or ordinary? Can anyone explain Wabi Sabi to me?" she cried. A bird flying by thought the question was for her. "That's hard to explain," she said to Wabi Sabi, "but there is someone who can help you. His name is Kosho, and he lives on Mount Hiei to the east."
A wise old monkey living among the pine trees knows Wabi Sabi.
"Thank you," said Wabi Sabi, and off she went to learn what her name meant. To get to Mount Hiei, she had to cross through the city. Dazzled by big buildings, shiny glass, and sleek cars, awed by the busy, sharply dressed people, she wondered if these pretty things could be Wabi Sabi. She decided that if her name was true to her, it must be softer, quieter, darker.
Even in cities, before the shock of new light, the colors of dusk.
A short time after Wabi Sabi entered the woods, she arrived at the foot of Mount Hiei. The woods were dark. So hoping to find Kosho in the morning, she curled up beneath an old pine tree and went to sleep. She awoke to the sounds of a stick stirring and tapping.
A warm bowl of tea offered by a monkey. Please, steam rising gently.
Very glad to have the tea and company, she said, "Thank you. My name is Wabi Sabi." "That's wonderful," the monkey replied. Encouraged, she asked, "Do you know what that means?" "Well, that's," he began. "I know, hard to explain," she said. But he went on.
The pale moon resting on foggy water. Hear that splash? A frog's jumped in.
"That's Wabi Sabi?" she asked. "Is that all?" "I don't know if I can." "It's more," said the monkey. "Listen, watch, feel." He said no more, so she watched him make tea. He moved slowly but gracefully, as if he was dancing, and he handled his things as if they were gold, although they were wooden and clay. Wabi Sabi felt what was in her paws.
A warm, heavy bowl, comfortable as an old friend, not fine, smooth china.
She looked carefully at the woods around her. There was so much life, as in the city, but here things were not clean, neat, or sharp-edged. There were no straight lines. There were many designs on trees, in clouds, and dirty ponds. She saw that everything was
Alive and dying too, like the damp autumn leaves curled beneath their feet.
simple things are beautiful, she heard the monkey say as he poured more tea for her, looking down at the tea in her bowl.
Seeing herself plain and beautiful, she whispered, "Now I understand."
After some time, Wabi Sabi thanked her new friend and started back for home. Because she did not hurry, she found a place called Ginkakuji, the Silver Temple. There was nothing silver there, but she found the place to be very beautiful, in a Wabi Sabi kind of way. Although the buildings and gardens were shaped by humans, they were neither fancy nor grand. Moved by the natural simplicity of the place, Wabi Sabi composed 3 short poems about what she saw.
Yellow bamboo stalks bow by tea house doors so low, emperors must kneel. Dark buildings floating sit on white sand seas. A stream sweeps small stones, chanting. The monk returns leaves to just raked sand. This humble cat might understand.
Tired but glad, Wabi Sabi returned at last to her house. She curled up in the straw mat in the kitchen, enjoying the warmth there. She could smell the wind in her fur and feel her long journey's steps deep in her bones.
The sun's last rays stretch, a silver brushstroke shivers on warm, clouded glass.
Now I think I know what to call this feeling, she said to herself. It's wabi-sabi, cried her master, seeing her. Where have you been? That's hard to explain, she thought, feeling simply and beautifully at home. Let us now sing the kids to their classes.
Good morning. My name is Bob Anders, and in the program, I'm booked as an interlude. I find that fascinating. I'm going to talk a little bit about from trash to treasures. And some people might say making something out of nothing. A couple words come to mind. In my case, ephemera. Ephemera. My friend Roger Berger, an expert wordsmith, could help you with this. Ephemera and detritus. Detritus is junk, pretty much, things you would discard. Ephemera is those things you see, flyers in the mail, ads, so on and so forth. To me, these are joyous items. I'm going to talk to you about my life as a collage artist. I've been in the fellowship for 12, 14 years. I don't remember what date I signed the book. I love it here. I retired in 2014 from a career in banking. My wife is a superb collage artist. And that's where I sort of learned my appreciation and skills in collage. What collage is cutting and pasting, plain and simple. But I chose the US Post Office as my gallery. I make postal items, collage them, and send them off. So I don't have a pile of art hanging around my house or sitting in boxes. It's all out there. Well, I do have a few items. So anyway, I thought it was interesting in the Time for All Ages, the monkey said, simple things are beautiful. And I find my collages to be beautiful in a way. The people who receive them enjoy them. I think it's important for older people to have a hobby, something they enjoy, something that makes them feel free and gives them pleasure. I'm fortunate to have many friends. My UU buddies at Romeo, which is our Wednesday morning coffee, I consider my very close friends, and I certainly enjoy being with them. Anyway, I opened my retirement hut, which is the name of my studio. I opened it in 2016 or thereabouts. I started collaging, and I opened a page on Instagram called Bob's Retirement Hut, and I photo and post images of most all of the pieces of collage I make, so I invite you to have a look. I also have embellished my title, Bob's Retirement Hut, Scrap Heap, and Scriptorium. And so a scriptorium is a place where a monk or a contemplative person isolates and thinks and creates. And so I can tell you From Trash to Treasure is great. Thank you.
Will you join me now in a time of prayer and meditation? Our prayer this morning comes from Reverend Mark Bellatini. Baruch atah emet. Blessed are you, O truth. Like the fabled Moses, I too can never claim to have seen you face to face. Too often I've hung my own face on you and pretended that I know something I do not. Indeed, my most honest heart confesses that at most I have only caught the briefest glimpse at the very edge of my eye, and only when I get out of my own way, my own rush, my own fury. I sense your cool shadow on me when I grow hot from the tears I've been holding back, or when I notice the sadness or whimsy hiding in the silent eyes of those around me. I sense your closeness when I gaze at a star suddenly unveiled by a cloud, or catch an early yellowness in the leaves of an oak. It's then that I feel the brush of wings nearby and realize that I am only a small part of it all. Then I know that I am not the great high power of the world, but only a puff of breath hidden amid the mighty blasts of the great whirlwind called the universe. Like a lace wing barely floating on the tip of a small blade of green grass is my life from beginning to end. A short footnote to the vast essay of stars and space unbounded. An essay neither signed nor finally symbolic. And yet this truth, your truth, is not sadness, but joy. Not lack, but blessing. Like the sight of a child at play, totally absorbed in the moment and glad. Blessed are you, O truth, who plays in this silence like a child in the waves of an infinite sea. Baruch atah emet. And for all of the truths that we bring here today and hold in our hearts, let us now enter the sanctuary of silence.
The reading is taken from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 11, verses 1 to 11. When they were approaching Jerusalem at Bethpage and Bethany, near the Mount of Olives, he sent 2 of his disciples and said to them, "Go into the village ahead of you, and immediately as you enter it, you will find tied there a colt that has never been ridden. Untie it and bring it. If anyone says to you, 'Why are you doing this?' just say this, 'The Lord needs it and will send it back here immediately.'" They went away and found a colt tied near a door outside in the street. As they were untying it, some of the bystanders said to them, "What are you doing, untying the colt?" They told him what Jesus had said, and they allowed them to take it. Then they brought the colt to Jesus and threw their cloaks on it, and he sat on it. Many people spread their cloaks on the road, and others spread leafy branches that they had cut in the fields. Then those who went ahead and those who followed were shouting, "Hosanna! Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our ancestor David. Hosanna in the highest heaven." Then he entered Jerusalem and went into the temple. And when he had looked around at everything, as it was already late, he went out to Bethany with the 12.
Our second reading is from Beth Kempton from her book Wabi Sabi, A Japanese Wisdom for a Perfect, Imperfect Life. Put simply, Wabi Sabi gives you permission to be yourself. It encourages you to do your best, but not make yourself ill in pursuit of an unattainable goal of perfection. It gently motions you to relax, slow down, and enjoy your life. And it shows you that beauty can be found in the most unlikely of places, making every day a doorway to delight.
We will now give and receive the offering. Please note that this morning, half of the non-pledge offering will be donated to the Saving Suds program. This program, run by our friends at St. Andrew's and Bethesda Lutheran Churches, offers free laundry nights once a month at a local laundromat, no questions asked. The other half of the offering will support programs here in our fellowship that make this a community of inspiration and transformation. We'll pass the basket here in Fellowship Hall, but alternately, for those at home or here with a cell phone, you can go to uufames.org/give and make your contribution today. And if you're visiting today, please know that your presence here is gift enough.
Good morning, Central Iowa and beyond. My name is Reverend A.J. Galazin. I'm your interim minister. My pronouns are he and his. And I want to welcome everyone joining us today, both here in the sanctuary and on Zoom. Wherever you are on your spiritual, ethical, or questioning journey, you are welcome here. If you're visiting today or you've been around for a while and are interested in learning more about this fellowship, we will be having a new members orientation and lunch after our service on April 7th. There is no obligation. Sign up at the welcome table in the fireside room. As a beloved community, we set aside time every week to recognize the cycle of life and death, the circle of love, compassion, and caring that is at the center of this beloved community. So if you have a joy, a concern, or a milestone that you wish to share, please fill out the online form or submit a paper request in the Joys and Concerns box in the fireside room. And for those who wish to speak their joys, concerns, milestones, and prayer requests in person, I will be hosting a service of silent witness on the first Sunday of the month. And all are welcome to attend this gathering, whether or not you have something to share. One of my favorite catchphrases you've heard me speak 100 times is that worship is the work of the people. And these past 2 weeks have been great examples. I love it when I can go to church and be spiritually uplifted and not have to do a thing. Special thanks to Doug Gentile, Faith Winchester, Sam Wormley, Matt Ferris, and everyone for the last 2 weeks. They're deeply felt, enjoyable, and sometimes provocative presentations. Now, I've seen many wonderful things during my time in Iowa, especially you kind and friendly people. But there's also some things that trouble me deeply, especially from some of your elected officials. I'm talking about the so-called Religious Freedom Bill that has passed both your House and Senate and now awaits the governor's signature. Along with members of the Ames Area Religious Leaders Association, I have urged Governor Reynolds to veto this bill. We have sent her a letter stating that religious freedom is one of our country's most fundamental rights and is already protected, right? There's no rationale for legislation that misuses religious freedom as a means to justify discrimination. And this bill was passed solely along party lines. In the words of openly queer Senator Liz Bennett of Cedar Rapids, quote, "I am sick and tired of my community being the target of mean-spirited discriminatory bills written by Republican politicians," close quote. Among other things, this bill allows corporations to have religious views. Is it not enough that a corporation is considered to be a person that is not subject to criminal incarceration for their crimes? Now they will be given a blank check to discriminate based on religion? One thing we can do is to support the trans community and the Trans Lives Festival this coming Saturday at the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. I went last year and it was a wonderful, wonderful activity. Okay, I'm down from my pulpit now. I love watching the real estate shows where people are looking for a new place to live. It's so difficult, isn't it, to make a decision? It's hard to make comparisons. This place has a beautiful kitchen, but this place is closer to work, and this place needs a lot of TLC. Some of us are better dreamers than others. Some of us want to be move-in ready. I recently heard one realtor state that most buyers will pay 7% more based solely on curb appeal. In other words, comparing apples to apples, the place that looks prettier, cleaner, less cluttered, better designed, will command a premium. That's why it's so important to stage your home. The theatrical element fascinates me. It seems that many, if not most of us, are swayed more by appearances or cosmetic elements over the basic bare bones of a place. Bedrooms, bathrooms, garage square feet, and such. I wonder if this also applies to churches and religious organizations. How are you feeling about your own curb appeal? Today is Palm Sunday, the beginning of the Christian Holy Week, commemorating some pretty dramatic events in the life of Jesus, starting with his triumphant entry into the sacred city of Jerusalem. Our reading today was from the Gospel of Mark, the shortest, the oldest, and the earthiest of the three synoptic Gospels, Mark, Matthew, and Luke, that share much of the same storyline. Synoptic means with the same eye. The Gospel of John is out by itself in La La Land. Yet who can resist the opening lines? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overtake it. The writers of John's Gospel were poets. I've told you in past sermons how I am a fan of Mark's Gospel for these same reasons. It's the shortest, it's the oldest, and it's the earthiest, with language closer to the common people. Now, my favorite part of today's story is the donkey, sometimes translated as colt, sometimes translated as ass, as in Jesus rode into the city on his ass. But no matter how you say it, this was not the fanciest way to present yourself to the city of Jerusalem. It was very earthy. It was very humble. What would a contemporary example of seeing Jesus on a donkey? Picture this. Donald Trump riding down Fifth Avenue on a child's plastic tricycle. The kind with the very big wheel in front. A very big wheel. One scholar argues that Jesus' crowd probably wasn't very big. I mean, people had to work just to eat. How did they even know when to show up or how to spread the word? But I'm sure there was a close-knit entourage and probably some curious onlookers. The Gospel of Mark states, "And they that went before and they that followed cried, Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest." But that's where the synoptic Gospels diverge. Mark said, "They that went before and they that followed." That became, in Matthew's Gospel, the multitudes, suggesting a much bigger crowd. I've heard that some people in our own time still exaggerate the size of their crowds. Matthew also writes, "And when he was come into Jerusalem, all the city was moved, saying, Who is this? And the multitude said, This is Jesus, the prophet of Nazareth of Galilee." So there must have been a massive PR campaign for all the city to be involved and interested. Not to be undone, Luke goes even further than Matthew. Luke accepts the multitude with all their noisy celebration and has the officials tell Jesus to tone it down. Your gang is so loud and obnoxious. In Luke's version, Jesus replies that even if he could tone it down, the rocks and stones would cry out. Can you say embellishment? Embellishment. Can anyone judge a book by its cover? I, for one, am suspicious of curb appeal. What remains hidden underneath? I am a longtime student of the Japanese philosophy of wabi-sabi, of appreciating the beauty of impermanence and austerity. Things in states of decay remind us of the fleeting nature of this present moment. Wabi-sabi says that enough is enough. All that glitters is not gold. In my spiritual path, I try to look past the obvious facade and notice the cracks and the crevices in between. I understand and I expect that every rose has its thorn. For me, wabi-sabi is a subtle marriage between melancholy and optimism. Both are necessary. I see the imperfections in this world, but also the efficiency and usefulness of common stuff. Everything that is born crumbles and falls apart. Some things can be repaired. A new broom sweeps clean. Autumn wind and rain leaves the trees barren. And life goes on. So let's be happy in our sadness. We don't need more embellishment. We need more honesty. A famous poem I return to is The Red Wheelbarrow by William Carlos Williams. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. This poem is very personal wabi-sabi to me. I have my grandfather's wheelbarrow covered with many years of red rust, leaning up against my white woodshed, forlorn and forgotten, yet ready and dependable for the next task. And in my yard, my chicken coops are faded and empty. As Williams cries out, so much depends. So much depends on each one of us, especially the least among us. Now you may be asking, how does wabi-sabi fit in with Palm Sunday? Let's read from Psalm 118. Quote, "The stone that the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. This is the Lord's doing. It is marvelous in our eyes. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Close quote. The stone that the builders rejected is, of course, used by the Christian evangelists to describe the torment and suffering of Jesus. But I like to widen its appeal to all of us who feel marginalized and pushed away. And the theological liberationists point to this verse in the scripture to say that the foundation of the church, the reason for our assembly, the structure of all religion is not for the high and mighty and perfectly formed, but for all of the broken pieces that still maintain a semblance of cohesiveness, a union that some people call love. In other words, our imperfect love, which we can so easily cast away, is the very cornerstone of how we build our lives. We all have curb appeal. Now, during my Iowa adventures, I came unexpectedly upon an old brickworks in the city of Boone. There is a pile of discarded bricks with various nicks and bruises and a sign, "Free bricks." How could I say no? And so I found a living example of the scripture. The stones that the builders rejected, this is who I am. This is who I will always be. Who are we to say that the trash we cast off isn't more valuable, more natural, more honest, and more beautiful than the so-called treasure? Perhaps it is only after we throw it away that it rises to become a perfect imperfection. So today, as we march through the streets of our own holy cities, our own holy city of Ames, let us encourage each other to do good work, but also to gently slow down and enjoy the imperfection of life. Both our treasures and our trash may be sources of wonder and delight. May it be so, and amen. Will you rise now in body or spirit for our closing song, number 265, O Sacred Head Now Wounded. benediction this morning comes from Reverend Kenneth Patton. Our task is to be who we are in every way we can be. Our salvation is in putting ourselves back together after each tumble. We iridesce, shine, and radiate. We exclaim and roar, we are. Go now in peace.